Hello, partner community. Thank you for being here today. We really do appreciate it. We're very excited to introduce our newest product to you. Like Wayne said, we know we all got very busy schedules, so we want to get straight to the point for you guys. Let me go ahead and start sharing my screen. Actually, Wayne, let's see if we can share just the presentation. No, it's going to be a little easier here.
Okay. I'll flip to presentation mode. It'll make it a little bit bigger and easier to read.
Yeah. You guys see that okay?
Yep, looks good. Ken, I see you say there's a big echo. If anybody else is hearing echo, please let me know. I'm not sure what may be the cause of that, if that's an individual. Okay, thanks, Claudia. Okay, cool. Yeah, Ken, that may just be individually your system may be the one that's having the issue. It sounds like we're pretty good here. I think we're ready to get rolling, guys. So our agenda today, you saw our announcement. This is our next iteration in the voice AI space. So we'll talk a little bit about where we were earlier in this year, where we are now today, and then where we're going. And Albert will be highlighting some of the features and things that I think you guys are going to be really interested in. I love what we're showing you here today. Hopefully you guys love it as much as I do, but I looked at it and said, wow, this is a really awesome way to make our partners' lives easier. So super excited by what we're going to show and really interested to get your feedback as we move along here. So just kind of taking a look back earlier this year, and to be precise, this was at the beginning of February, we launched Flowbot AI. Really appreciate how many of you got excited about that launch, how many of you took the time to learn and to go off and find customers and to bring them on the platform. So great that we saw, really good adoption here and a number of really cool success stories. What we delivered at this time, speech native LLMs, dedicated inference for the calls, single prompt agents, and the custom tool builder, workflow apps, RAG-based knowledge, those set the foundation. And then the things specific to NetSapiens, where it was the integration there, the embedded testing within NetSapiens, and the transcription and error logging that you would see in NetSapiens. So Albert, if you want to flip to the next one. So that was a good start, right? And I think what we saw were early indications that the speech native LLM and the dedicated inference really led to a high quality experience for the caller. When we released this, a number of our partners had agents in other places and they brought them over, and it was pretty universal. What they were saying is the experience was faster, it was more responsive, it was more accurate, right? The kind of things we love to hear because we spent a lot of time researching what was the right way to do it. And I think you guys recall when we launched, we said there was a lot of wrong ways to do it, and we wanted to make sure that the foundational pieces were really set right. The other comments were very positive around the NetSapiens integration and the zip integration. So it reduces the complexity of a agent deployment, no forwarding, fewer moving parts, easier to not only deploy, but to troubleshoot and manage. So I think there was a lot of excitement around just having that native within NetSapiens. Maybe the thing that surprised me the most was how much demand there actually was. We've had a lot of phone calls with partners, sometimes with their customers as well. And there's a lot of different use cases that we saw along the way. And so some of those we anticipated, but a number of them kind of caught us by surprise. And the cool thing is that was a great learning experience for us to be able to talk about how we deliver next in this next iteration some things that I think will make building agents across a wide variety of use cases more interesting for you guys. There were challenges, though. I don't think any of these challenges were what we would consider, challenges that we couldn't go out and have success stories. But I think what we saw were challenges like no code does not necessarily mean no knowledge, right? I think when you think about no code tools, sometimes there's this belief that they look a little push button easy, right? And there's really a need to understand APIs, authentication, and parameters and responses. Along that same line is authentication, right? Authentication, particularly modern authentication, is a little complicated. It's not as easy as it used to be. So OAuth and token management and credential management often really require a piece of middleware. And that's not the kind of business that most of our customers are in, wanting to manage middleware, or you guys are in trying to manage that kind of middleware. The other thing we learned along the way is that the pre-built integrations, while they were good, they had some limits, and the limitations around things like triggers and actions and being able to handle synchronous response versus asynchronous response became more and more important depending upon the breadth or the depth of the use case that we were talking about. Prompting as a skill is still a little bit of a specialized skill. I think I've talked with a lot of partners, and I've seen you guys have really learned a lot along the way. And some of you have produced some pretty impressive prompts. So congratulations to you guys who have really kind of mastered that as a skill set. Along the way, though, what we noticed is that a lot of our support calls were actually related to the agent's instructions, right? And so you look through the prompt and you'd see, some things that needed to be fine-tuned, and conversation design needed to be fine-tuned. So I think that's, one of our key learnings is there's some things there that we can take away. Deterministic workflows. So we will find ourselves in a situation where we are being asked to do things where the agent must follow a process and not wander off that process. So think of like troubleshooting as the example. You troubleshoot in steps. You can't go to step 2 and then step 1 in a lot of these cases. And it has to follow a very defined process. And when we think about what that would mean to create a very defined set of processes, and sometimes if the process list gets a little long, we have a very large prompt that can be a little bit difficult to not only build, but can also be a little bit difficult to maintain. And so these are, I'd say, the things that, this last 6 months of experience taught us. And Albert, if you want to go to the next slide. It's also the thing that informs a lot of where we're going. So Flowbot AI has been the name we've gone to market as. Now the expanded, call it set of things that we are doing under our AI umbrella has expanded such to the point that we're renaming to Agent Studio. And I think you guys will, get a picture for why that is changing. But the good news is Flowbot AI really did prove that the technology works, and it works really well. But it also did inform us that there is friction in the process, and things that we can do to make your life easier as a builder or manager of agents. So that's what Agent Studio is all about. Albert?
Cool. Thank you, Wayne. So guys, with that, I'd like to formally introduce you to Agent Studio, right? It's a really exciting event for us. Essentially, Flowbot AI was our first go at it, developing this kind of platform and getting into this industry. But like Wayne said, even as we got to deployment time, we started to anticipate what some of the challenges will be. And then once we deployed, we really got to see them and be hands-on with our partners and even talk to more end users. So with that, we got back to the drawing board immediately, and we said, okay, what are the things that we want to improve? And then what are the things that we need to build to just handle that situation? Because that's not really a matter of improving, but really a matter of another object that can just handle it for you. So with that, guys, I introduced to you Agent Studio. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the improvements first. Arguably, some of them are new features, but I still consider them improvements. On the right-hand side, you can see where we're coming from with Agent Studio. It's a much larger, more engaging experience. We do have a completely rebuilt platform from the ground up. Okay, so the actual architecture, the infrastructure, the runtime that manages the agent, and the SIP infrastructure is the same you're on right now. But the actual orchestration software and the user experience, everything was built from the ground up to really handle what we were trying to accomplish. So with that, we got a couple new things. We got agent cloning. We have a substantially more flexible agent to extension management. So today's solution, you deploy an agent, you give it an extension number, very convenient. But the reality is there's times where you want to create a bunch of agents, you want to maybe move them around so you can A/B test. You don't necessarily, or you may want to change the extension on an agent, which we know is not something that can be done in NetSapiens, right? Once you create it, it's uneditable, you have to delete and recreate. So you can now actually detach the extension from the agent and you can mix and match however you want with no restrictions or limitations. We have officially deployed the caller ID handling. Some of you guys got to use that while it was in beta. We deployed it for you while you were testing, but it's now officially in the application with a checkbox. That means that the agent can receive the caller ID from a VoIP call and then use that caller ID in its operations, be it for verification, lookups, just part of a process, doesn't matter. And guys, I noticed I am blurry, so I'm sorry about that.
It's going to be late out, but you should be good.
From there, we go and we improve the tool builder, right? So the tool builder gave you what you need. Now we're trying to give you what you want, right? A better looking experience that kind of walks you through it in a more cohesive way, more simplistic way, and better key management. So I'm going to show that to you guys in the demo, but essentially the way you manage your keys is completely different, and we do support some new key features. Improved drag management, so you got a little bit of a more table, knowledge-based type user experience to make it easier to see and manage all your RAG. Redesigned workflow integrations, which we're going to talk about, and enhanced logging, right? So that is the smaller stuff that we consider to be some of the improvements. Now we get into what are some of the bigger new features, and these are the ones that are pretty much here right now. This is not even roadmap. So what do we have? We have a new agent workforce dashboard. That's the screenshot you were looking at. The dashboard is going to allow you to see your entire agent workforce. You're also going to be able to see your active calls. You're going to be able to see some statistics. You're going to be able to see your recent call history. And within the agent dashboard, you actually have call supervision. So, okay, so these are office manager, call supervisor, or call center supervisor type tools where not only are you looking at your agents and you can see if they're busy or if they're idle, but you can actually click a call. You immediately are able to see the transcription for that call live while it's happening with the agent. And you can do things like whisper. You can actually send commands to the agent on what you want it to do. Or if you feel that the agent is not in understanding the customer, you can actually send a command as if you were the customer talking to the agent to clarify what's happening. So it's a very, very cool tool. From there, we are happy to introduce or excited to introduce the new tool marketplace, right? So again, the idea was that we want to solve the challenges that we saw. So we created a marketplace that actually allows you to come in and pick a vendor, click connect. That's why we call it one click. You click connect. You're going to add your API key, or if it uses OAuth, think Microsoft, think HubSpot, think ConnectWise. You'll actually get that SSO style window. You'll be able to log into that OAuth app, and we'll do all of the OAuth management for you. We'll actually generate the token, we'll refresh the token, we'll keep that token fresh, and we'll update the token every time a call starts to make sure that your agent always has an active token to trigger the call. We also now introduce one-click workflow integration. So as Wayne alluded to, you know, the workflow apps were cool. And it sounded like a great idea at the time, if we're going to be transparent, right? We wanted to be in there. We wanted to give you the ability to manage your workflows from the place where you already manage them. But the reality is we found some bottlenecks, right? One of the bottlenecks was actions and triggers. You basically have to have a dev team dedicated to that all the time, and you have to constantly be adding actions and triggers because everybody needs something different. It's why the generic webhooks or nodes are so popular. In addition to that, you got to maintain those apps and the sync versus async situation, right? So when you look at workflow platforms like Zapier, when you get a 200 OK, that doesn't include any of the information from the actual transaction. You'd have to do a lookup afterwards. And realistically, in the voice agent world, it's not natural. It doesn't fit the square. It doesn't fit the hole. So we have a new solution we're going to show you. We also have custom authentication profiles. So if you guys want to connect any app, it doesn't matter what it is, okay? If we don't have a vendor profile for it, you can create one yourself. So just bring it, you pick one of the authentication methods that we support, you create a vendor profile for it on that customer, and then you can activate as many tools as you want on that. And then, guys, we also introduced manual tool testing, right? So historically, you would create a tool, and then if you wanted to know if that tool is working, you would add it to your agent, and you would try to have the agent execute it. Well, that's a little bit of a problem, right? Because it doesn't like you to isolate to really figure out where things are at. So now you create a tool, and on the tool page, you can hit test. Any of the dynamic properties that the agents would have provided, you can type them in, and it allows you to actually isolate the tool and say, yes, this tool is working or not working, and then proceed over to your agent. Up on the top right hand side, we're going to talk about structured prompt templates. So one of the things that we notice is, prompts are difficult to write. Let me rephrase that. Agents exist in a spectrum with remarkable little middle grounds. And what that means to me is you're either doing something extremely basic and you wrote 3 sentences and it happened, or you're doing something pretty sophisticated, okay, and you need good prompting. You need good structured prompting that follows a specific schema, okay? That schema is not defined. That schema is something you create. Now, there's nothing in the middle, okay? So what we try to do is we can't only provide so much training on prompts, but what we can do is provide you training on understanding what should be in a prompt and then give you a structured form that allows you to fill out certain pieces, and then we combine those pieces and we turn it into a prompt for you. So the goal is that we're going to help you start becoming more self-sufficient so you have a structure on how to be able to put that into the system. We got about 70 new voices that we've added to the platform. We've introduced custom voice cloning, so you can actually come into the application, click create custom voice, record 30 seconds to a minute of your audio, upload it to the system, and apply your own voice to your own agent. You got dedicated call recording built in for the agent itself, having nothing to do with the phone system. And guys, we do now officially have plug and play VoIP support. So you can connect any service as long as it has credentials. So for our 3CX guys out there, you can connect an agent to that, right? If you have a customer that happens to have a Vonage service and you can get the credentials for it, or they have some other service, as long as you can get the credentials, you can configure the agent as if it was an IP phone and connect it to that service. And by the way, you can have multiple connections to the same agent. So you guys, let's say you got a customer on a hosted PBX, and for example, on NetSapiens, and you want to deploy that agent on NetSapiens, but that same customer maybe has a 3CX in another location or some other system at another location, you can register back to that exact same agent, and you can have 2, 3, 10 registrations on the same agent. And then, guys, the last couple features I'll talk about today, they're in beta, but they're already exposed in the application. They're going to probably be released within a couple weeks. We have an embeddable voice agent with browser control. So one of the cool things that you can do here is once you've created an agent, just like you add a chat widget to your website, you can add a voice agent widget to your website. So you're going to copy a little piece of JavaScript. You're going to add that JavaScript to the footer of your website, and that's going to give you what's called a fab. On the bottom right-hand side, the little button, a floating action button, you click that, it opens up an operator, the agent is talking to you, and that agent has browser controls. So for example, let's say you have a support agent or a sales agent, and I'm going to do a demo for you guys, or at least I'm going to try if we have time. You say, I'm interested in X service, the agent can actually browse to that service. The customer says, I want information on X product, and it's on the page, it can scroll to that piece. Customer says, okay, I'm ready, I want to get more, it can take them to a demo contact us form. So it is a really cool solution. I think you guys are going to like it, your customers are going to like it. Playbooks. So as Wayne mentioned, and as I started talking about now, that spectrum situation, I said, agents that do very complicated things, okay, that have to be very deterministic, it can get hard to do that with just prompting. Especially, and I have a taxi analogy I'm going to give you guys. Imagine you get in a taxi and you tell the taxi driver, I'm going to this place that's 100 miles away. I want you to look at a map. I want you to identify all the ways to get there. I want you to decide what could happen every single way, step of the way. And I want you to drive and I want you to talk to me at the same time. It's cognitively impossible. Okay. So what we're doing is we're saying, okay, taxi driver, here's your GPS. Just follow the instructions. Okay. And the idea is when you get to those situations, your agent is going to be working off the prompt. Your agent's going to have its personality, its behavior. It's going to talk. It's going to do its thing. But when it's time to do something extremely specific, like troubleshoot a VoIP service that requires 12 steps, troubleshoot a printer that requires 12 steps, you're going to use a playbook. You're going to trigger a playbook just like a tool. A backend is going to take over. It's going to deterministically control your agent, do exactly what it's supposed to do. And then once the playbook is complete, it releases the agent and the agent goes back into prompt mode. And then the last thing, guys, conversation design canvas. So as we start doing bigger and cooler solutions, you're going to want to, we already have customers that want to set up orchestrations of agents, right? So for example, a receptionist agent that's also working with a tier one billing agent, a tier one support agent, an escalation agent, maybe an after hours answering service agent. So with a canvas, you can actually design a conversation. And in that conversation, you can have all your agents, you can set up how they transfer to each other, and you essentially set up a pod of agents that are working together. And I am going to show that to you guys today. So with that, guys, we're going to jump into a demo. I see, Wayne, we've already got
We got, yeah, a couple questions. Let me,
questions.
Mike, I'm going to take your question first. Mike's question, can we create an AI voice agent as a proof of concept for, say, like a plumbing company? And the answer to that is yeah. In fact, I'd encourage you to have proof of concept ones that you can show to customers. We've helped a few partners put them together. If you're having some challenges, let me know. But absolutely, there's this is one of those products that I think a customer who is not familiar with the technology will want to see, feel, and touch it, so to speak. And this is, I think a foundation sales component. Fernando, if you don't mind, I'm going to take your question at the end because I think it's a good question and I want to expand on it probably a little more time than we would take here right now to answer it.
Wait, I'll give them a 5-second answer before we get in. So Fernando, this platform was created as an independent platform. And the initial release of the platform, you're going to access Agent Studio through RingOS and through NetSapiens. But the platform will be available to you independently as well. So if you feel that there's a case where you want to use the platform or you want to give your customer access to the platform outside of RingOS, you'll have access to that. We can talk about more of that offline if that's what you're interested in. All right, guys, let's go ahead and stop the screen share and let's get to the demo. All right, Wayne, do you see my screen there?
See it? Yep.
I'm not doing the whole monitor. I'm just doing the windows. The size good, the shape good for your browser? Remember,
Yeah, you're good. It's clear.
I'm on a monitor that's 4 feet wide here. Okay. All right, guys. So first things first, I'm doing the demo for you today inside a staging environment. As we're getting ready to deploy, I didn't really want to touch in there, so I'm going to show it to you kind of directly in NetSapiens at the moment. So what we're looking at here is the experience is going to be very similar to what you're used to with Flowbot AI. You're going to come over to your users, and you're going to have your voice agents tab, and that's where it's going to be. Now, the initial layout is a little bit cleaned up. You're going to notice that it's exactly like NetSapiens. And what we're going to do is we're going to show you all of your agents right here. And you'll notice we have agents and we also have flows. We got 2 that we can show you in the demo today. Now, some of the neat stuff you can do from this page, you can see if an agent is active or inactive. So today, when you create an agent, it's live, it's ready to go. Now you could actually start building your agent, start putting things together. And then once you feel your agent's ready, you can deploy your agent and that's when it goes active. And it doesn't go active until you actually deploy it. Then when it comes to assigning phones, these right now don't have any phones assigned, but if I wanted to assign a phone to an agent, I actually got a couple options. I could either create a user if I want to create a new user for it, or like if I want to have a dedicated user for that agent, or I can actually attach it to any user in the system. Now, this is a crazy demo. I got a bunch of crazy extensions here, but let's get into some more realistic numbers. So here you can see I can actually grab any extension in the system, and then I can attach myself to any device. If it only has the main one, I grab that one. If you have a 112A, B, C, D, you can pick it if you want to. You have a couple of advanced settings. We won't get into that now. You hit connect, and you actually connect the agent to that extension. Now, why? So again, you don't always necessarily want the agent married to an extension number. You may want to do some A/B testing on the same extension number so you can detach one agent, attach another one. And now you can actually deploy agents that are not just on main numbers or for the company, but you can deploy an agent for individuals. So for example, perhaps an executive, right, that would like to have an agent on their 101A, right? And then that executive service could ring their main extension, and if they don't answer, go to 101A, and then the agent can take it for them. So this is just one of the many examples where now, because you can attach an agent anywhere, you can do almost anything you can think of. There are no physical or architectural limitations. Now from here, we can do a couple things. We can go directly into an agent to edit them. That's what I'm going to do with the first one. And you'll notice that we no longer have that small pane on the right-hand side. We do have a full pane experience. And this, guys, is what we call Agent Studio. And it's why the name Studio is here, right? So in this particular case, this is what I'm going to do for you guys is I'm going to show you first apples to apples, okay, what you had and how it looks today. And then I'm going to start getting into all the cool new stuff that we've added. So apples to apples, this is a single prompt agent like you guys are used to. You have the ability to drop your prompt just like before. You have the same kind of conveniences that you had before where you can use slash to insert things into your prompt, whether it be knowledge base, playbooks, tools, browser controls, whatever it may be. Over here on the right-hand side, you have all the configuration controls. You no longer have to move tabs. You can look at your prompt and you can look at your settings at the same time. So again, the basic controls you expect: language, voice, the ability to hear it, model, temperature, all your call settings, the ability to enable and disable recording, which is the new setting, the ability to attach tools to your agent. You can pick a tool, you can pick built-in tools, or you can pick a tool from your library. I don't have any tools in this library yet. And by the way, guys, once you add tools, you also have the ability. So, tools have parameters inside of them, right? When you execute. So like when you execute the warm transfer tool, you got to put in the destination parameter. Or when you reference the tool, you got to put in the tool name, right? So what we do for you is we actually show you down here tool name and tool parameters for all your tools. So as you're prompting, you say, use tool, and then go ahead and click it, and it puts it in there for you, right? And you may say send value, and then you click the parameter and it puts it in there for you. So the idea is you don't have to go back and forth. You don't have to memorize everything. In one place, you can actually click and continue configuring. Now, before I go any further, let me see what else is normal here for you guys. Knowledge. So you do have the ability to add your knowledge bases. You can add one or multiple, and the same thing. We're going to actually show you the name of the tool that you use for the knowledge base, and then we're going to show you all the sources inside of it, right? So as you want to reference a specific knowledge base, you click it, and it goes ahead and it adds it to the prompt for you so you can actually reference it. And then down here, guys, since I already mentioned it, this is where you do your phone line management. So here's where you can see all the phone lines that are attached to your agent. You can, just like you saw before, you can actually select the user and a device. And by the way, here you have the complete experience. You can actually select the user and a device, and that's the experience you saw inside the NetSapiens portal. Or you can actually bring your own voice, right? And this is where you can, for example, the 3CX guys out there, you can get the server, username, password, drop the information, hit continue, and we'll actually register to that service. If your customer is using any of these other services, for example, some of the popular internet-based services like Twilio or Plivio or even Bandwidth in some cases, then you can actually go ahead and connect to that service. So regardless of where you have your dial tone, you can ensure that you can connect here. Testing. So up on the right-hand side, this agent's not configured, so the test is not going to start correctly. But here you can see what the testing would have been like. So the testing is actually inside the same panel. You're looking at your prompt, you're looking at your configurations, and you're talking to your agent all at the same time in one view. You're going to see the transcription happening in real time, and then you're also going to be able to see individually what tools were ran, if it was multiple flows, what flows were run, if there were any errors, what errors were inside the call. And again, the idea is to allow you to give you just a studio, a place where you can manage everything in one place. Up here is the new embed feature. So with this feature, you can actually say, I want to embed the voice agent to our website. So you go ahead and you pick the icon you want, where you want it to show up on the web page. You give it the color, you give it the button size, and then once you're done, you go ahead and you copy this script, you drop it on your website, and that actually adds an agent to your website that can talk to your customers, can navigate pages, can scroll pages, and I forgot one more thing. It can highlight parts of the pages. So since I started talking about this feature, I'll show it to you now. It's right here called browser control. You say, I want to attach a control. You create one. What's the name? For example, AI agents. What's the trigger if the customer asks about agents? Where do you go? The website page is /agents. Okay, and then if you want to scroll to an element or if you want to hide an element, you hit create, you attach it to your agent like a tool, and that's how it's able to do it. So first thing we talked about is kind of like the agent itself. Next is talk about tools, right? So historically, you had your custom tool builder and you had your apps for the Zapier for the workflow applications, right? So now what we have is an official tool marketplace. The tool marketplace already has about a dozen vendors that have been deployed, and we're committing to adding no less than about 1 or 2 vendors per week for the foreseeable future. Okay. Some of the first vendors that we added were vendors that we thought would be important or popular with you guys. So you do have a couple of the PSAs ready to go. You got Atera, you got Autotask, you got Halo, and in the background, guys, we're about to launch ConnectWise, and we got SuperOps already. Okay, and if there's any other PSA that you guys are using that we haven't on here, please reach out to your success manager, and we'll try to get it on here for you as quickly as possible. Now, in addition to that, of course, guys, we're trying to give you the tools that you would need for yourself so you can deploy agents for yourself, but we're creating the tools that we feel your customer is going to be using. We got about 25 to 30 vendors in our short list, which are the ones that we're already moving on. We're focusing on CRMs, we're focusing on ticketing systems, we're going to get into the restaurant business, and we're already working on medical apps and legal apps as well. So let's say I wanted to connect Calendly, for example. I want an agent that could look at a calendar, schedule a meeting. I come in here and I click setup. You're not going to see it because I'm sharing my window. I'm not sharing my whole screen. But when I click connect with Calendly, it's going to open up an SSO window that I have on my screen. In this SSO window, I'm logging in with my Microsoft 365 accounts, which is what I use for Calendly. And that,
While you're doing that, Carlos asked about Synchro. Yeah, Carlos, that is definitely one on the short list. It's I'm gonna call it in a state of completion, but not totally completed yet.
I had to stop the screen share, start it so that you guys can see that. You see my screen again, Wayne?
Yep.
Okay, great. So as you see, I did the SSO connection. Now it's going to ask me to name connection. What we try to do, guys, is that when we get the token back from your SSO vendor, remember, we don't get your credentials. All we do is get the token. Once we get the token back, we try to identify the user in that token, right? There's a particular format that it should be in there. If that vendor doesn't provide your information in the token, then we give you the ability to name the connection. So in this case, it's getting connected to my personal Calendly account. So we come in here, we click save. Now that I've created the connection, I'm going to assign it. I can see all of the tool templates that are ready to go. Okay, so for example, I'm going to say I want to do a user availability check. Okay, and by the way, I'm going to activate this one too here, search current user profile. So these are the two that I think are going to be useful to me. I go ahead and I click install tools, and that's it, guys. It was simple as that. With just clicking install and doing an SSO, I have an OAuth connection back to Calendly. And by continuing the wizard, I see that I've got 2 custom tools installed, search current user profile and search user availability, which are using my Calendly connection, and they're active right now, so I know the token is good. Now from here, like I said before, if I want to test my tool before I actually go put it on the agent and see if it's working, I can just come in here and hit test. Okay, and in this case, I want to look up user availability. You're going to put in your Calendly user URL. Remember, guys, we're trying to eliminate how much you need to know, but you still need to understand your APIs, right? So in the case of Calendly, the user input field is specifically your user URL inside of Calendly. You copy and paste that here, you hit run test, and you're going to see the response. You're going to see the calendar response or whatever the case is. Now, in the cases where we know that, for example, Calendly is one of them, when you're using the Calendly free accounts, there's no easy way to know your user URL. So when those kind of things happen, if we discover that during the vendor creation, we'll actually add an API call just so you can look up the thing that you might need, right? So in this case, we know that the free accounts you can't see your user URL. So we create this API call for you. You can say test, okay? And it's actually running a test against my user. And then here I can see my URI. So now I know what my user URI is for when I want to run this test over here. Okay, and it went and it got my calendar, and here's the response that would have been sent back to the agent, right? When I'm available, the times that I'm available, and what the options are. So again, complete control. Now, guys, as you can see, you're going to see vendors as we come up here. You're going to see how many tools we have available for them. You're going to see how many connections you have, because I have one connection to Calendly right now, right? But I may need to connect to a bunch of different Calendly accounts, right? So that's no problem at all. I can actually come in here and say I want to create another connection. I can pick any of the vendors that we have in the system. Okay, I can hit connect with Calendly, and I can establish a second connection. So I can connect my Calendly's, I can connect Wayne's, I can connect Gabriella's, and the agent can access one or all of them. It's totally up to you. Now, since I'm here already, let's talk about custom connections. So there will be times where you're going to make a custom tool, and I'm going to show you custom tools now. And that custom tool may need a custom connection of some sort, right? So, or you may want to connect a vendor. For example, we have a tool with HubSpot, but that tool is going to ask for a dozen permissions. That connection is going to ask for a dozen connections. You may want to perform an action in HubSpot where that connection doesn't have that permission for you. So that tool wouldn't work. Well, this now allows you to go into HubSpot, create your own app, okay? Put whatever permissions you need for your custom tool, and then come back over here and create a custom app. So whether it's to an existing vendor or to a brand new vendor, you can say this vendor needs an API key or a bearer token, or the most complicated of all, it uses OAuth 2.0 off-code flow, which is that SSO experience, and you get exactly the settings you need so you can configure a custom app and not have to use any middleware. Let's see, Wayne, are we missing anything here before I go off? So we talked about our new catalog. Let's talk about custom tools. So you still have the ability to build custom tools. If you want to build a custom tool, you hit build. First thing you're going to do is you're going to give it a name and a description. Then you're going to come over and you're going to assign the authentication to it. So in most cases, tools require authentication. That's where you can come and you can pick any of the pre-made connections that you have. If you don't have a pre-made connection, you can actually create one from here as well, again, for any vendor or custom. And once you do that, guys, the way this works, and this is extremely important, prior to this particular mechanism that we created, this authentication system, typically what you would do is if you wanted to deploy a bearer token inside, you would come to your parameters, you would add a static parameter, right? And that would be bearer, and it's going to go in the header, and you would put your bearer token. Well, inherently, that's got a problem, right? Because this
Did Albert freeze? Okay. Let me. Ping him here. See if we can log back in and out. So while that is happening, let's see if I can address any questions. Yes, the training registration links will be sent, as will the presentation that you're seeing today. So we'll record this. The deck will be sent as well. It's a short deck. This is mostly, screen presentation, but we'll send the whole thing. Yeah, same. We'll get you the recording and the follow-up deck and the links to the training. Thank you, Les. So when he gets back in, he's gonna. Oh, okay, perfect. There he is.
I'm back. Sorry, guys, I lost power and my router. Get back to it for you.
Okay.
So where I was at on the tools, typically what you would do is you would add your tokens there. So again, what the new system does is that it will now manage your tokens in a secure token vault, okay, independent of the agent system and actually the tool system. And what it does is that it either stores your keys securely if you provide them static keys, or it stores the keys and it refreshes them dynamically and keeps them fresh for you in the background. Every time a call starts, that key is provided at that exact moment during call start. So that ensures that the key is never in another system where it doesn't need to be. It's always at rest in a secure vault. And it ensures that your agent always has a fresh key to ensure that that tool is going to run. So before I go there, you're going to drop in a request, the type of request that it is. You're going to drop in all your parameters. So if you have any, in most cases, you're going to use dynamic and static parameters. So static parameters are going to be the things that are always going to be sent along with the API call. And then dynamic parameters are the ones that your agent is going to fill in. And you can choose if those are required or not. We also have what we call automatic parameters. So these are parameters that are part of the system runtime itself. So if you want some information from the system, like you want a call ID, you want a call state, conversation history, you want metadata from the call itself, information that the actual platform can provide, we can include that inside the request. Of course, you got to make sure that whatever system is receiving it is ready to accept and receive that information. And then down here at the bottom, you have all your behaviors. So your timeout, your default reaction, and whether or not it's pre-computable, and whether or not you want a static response, meaning do you want the agent to say the same thing every time, or do you want to allow it to just say whatever it wants based on the response and the prompting? And then the last thing, guys, is I'm going to show you here the new workflow tools. So if you can see, we have Make and we have N8N. They're now going to be service side, okay? And this is pretty cool. So we will be decommissioning. Nobody has to worry. We're not going to do it anytime soon. Both platforms are compatible with each other. We will be eventually decommissioning the workflow platform apps that we deploy, okay? And we're going to help our partners migrate to the new service side integrations. So with the service side integration, what we do now is that it's all API driven from the platform, okay? You're going to log into that vendor's account. You're going to grab, in the case of make.com, your API token in your zone, your organization ID, which is in your URL. You're going to hit connect and discover. We're now going to be able to look at all the workflows that you have in that account already, regardless of how they're built, exactly the way they are with the tools that they have, okay, with the nodes that they have. You'll then be able to select one of those workflows, and then we will retrieve the information that makes that workflow tick, particularly what's the webhook URL, and we're also going to go ahead and get the parameters inside of it, whether they're static or dynamic, and then we're going to import that information, and we're going to automatically build the tool for you. So you no longer have to download the Flowbot AI app inside the application and add it to your workflow or make a new workflow. You can use the existing workflows that you have. The same is true for N8N. The only difference is N8N is a little tricky, so we do have to use MCP in that case in order to discover the workflows, but we still create an API tool to actually create it and talk to or execute that run for you afterwards. So guys, we talked about standard agents. We've talked about tools. Let's go ahead and jump into the knowledge base. So over here in the knowledge base, there's not a lot that's different, only the presentation. You have your collections, which are kind of like your folders where you want to put things. And then you got the sources, the actual document sources or information sources. We do have one new feature here, which is the ability to just add text. So historically, you can do websites and files, but every once in a while, you don't have a file ready. You just want to put some business hours or you want to do something. So you can actually come in here, type the information, type out the contents. And what we do in the background is that we wrap that information into a text file, and then we go ahead and we add it to the system on your behalf. So just a small convenience feature. Down here, we got our voices. So like I said, we got about 70 new voices. We go from about 160 something to almost 240. You can see all the languages just like before. You can filter it down just to English. We added a new convenience feature, which is the ability to heart your voices, right? So once you got a voice that you like, I'll admit it, it kind of sucks to have to go through the list and find that voice over and over and over again, or you can't remember what it was. So this gives you the ability to come in here, preview the voices, listen to them, look at the voices metadata, and if you like it, heart it. And then when you go manage your agents, those are the voices. Those voices will be at the very top of the menu for you. Over here, you can see your favorited voices, again, with all of the metadata for it. And guys, we're going to be introducing some features soon that's going to allow you to adjust the voice. So you can make the voice go a little faster or a little slower. And you're also going to be able to add a custom dictionary. So if you run into a problem where your agent is not saying a specific word the way you want it, or your agent doesn't have a word in its vocabulary, you'll be able to introduce vocabulary to the voice synthesizer itself. And then over here are your clones. I don't have a clone here. If I was going to make one, I hit create a clone of voice. We'll say test. This is call it that because I can't type today. Pick your language, give it a description. Okay. And then on the next page, you can either upload a recording that you already have, or you can say record from microphone. We recommend that the recording is at least 30 seconds long, or the minimum is 30 seconds. Once you have 30 seconds, you can stop or you can keep talking. The more you talk, the more articulate you are, the slower you speak, the better the recording is going to come out. Once the recording's ready, you'll be able to hit preview and listen to your voice before you assign it to your agent. And these are all scoped at a tenant level. So each tenant has a voice available to them. And then I would say that the last thing that's kind of comparable to what you guys had before was call history. So you do have call history now. Within the call history, you got a little bit more detail because we got more features. So you can just see all your CDRs or your ADRs, right? Agent detail records, or you can say, I just want to see the ones related to VoIP calls, or I want to see the ones related to embedding, or I want to see the ones that were specific to a test that I was running. Because again, you may come in here and I don't have any tests here. Oh, let me see if by any chance, okay, here we have a test. So I can actually click a call, I can see the CDRs, I can listen to it from here. And this is kind of cool. You can actually, typically when you're listening to a recording, you have to kind of like scroll to where you want to find it. So again, this one's not recorded, but if it was, I would have a recording player up top, and then I would be able to come in here and click a specific message, and it starts playing from that message. So I have fast forward and rewind by just clicking the different options inside of the chat history. Now I do have the ability to see all tool calls. So if I want to know what tool was run and what happened with that tool, I can see it inside of the transcription history to know exactly when it was. I can see system events. I can see the tools themselves, the execution of the tool and the response of the tool. And in this case, it's just one stage, one flow. But if it was a multi-agent flow, I would see each stage that it went to. If it had any errors, I would see those errors. And the last thing, guys, if I was using a phone, then I would actually have a phone tab, and I'm going to have all my logs related to the phone call. So I'm going to show you the caller ID information. I'm going to show you the call ID from the system that it came from, not the caller ID, but the call ID from the SIP invite. I'm also going to show you the log from the agent gateway, and I'm going to give you access to a PCAP and a SIP graph that you can look at just like you would look at NetSapiens. So you got full VoIP troubleshooting inside of Agent Studio. Now, since we talked about those things, I already talked about phone, let's go ahead and talk about telephony. So you guys saw you can manage your telephony directly on your agents, but this would be your telephony dashboard where you can see all the registrations that you have and then the agents that they're assigned to. So if I had one in here, I would say, okay, I want to select a user and device, and let's just go ahead and pick somebody at random. Okay, next. It's line 107. I want to connect it to agent 1. I want to pass the caller ID, name and number, or just name. I want to do name and number. I want to let DTMF go through. I hit connect line, and it actually creates the registration, right? So that's it. That agent is now connected to that extension in NetSapiens. Over the next 10 to 30 seconds, that's how long it takes, the service, the line itself will provision, and then you're going to see it registered. And then if you want to manage it, you can always come in here. You can kind of envision what it would look like, just like the knowledge base. You would see all your registrations in a row. You can pick a registration, and then you can come in and say, you know what, this registration, I want to change the agent on it. I want to run a test. Just change it from agent 1 to agent 4. No problem. Come in here, hit save. You could actually just go ahead and swap it out super quick, okay? You can add as many registrations as you want. You can mix and match. You could remove them from the system. You got complete control, guys. So those are the things that are comparable and how we worked to make them a little bit better. Now, let me start showing you some of the new cool stuff that's inside the platform. Let me see how we're doing on time. We're already running late. So creating a new agent. When you create an agent, okay, you actually have the ability to do what's called a single prompt agent, which is what you guys are used to already. And that's what I demoed for you. or you can create what's called a multi-prompt flow. Okay. And when you do that, like Wayne was alluding to, we're introducing the concept of templates. So you can say, I want to build it from scratch, or I want to start from a template as a starting point. Now I'm going to go ahead. I'm just going to jump into a flow that's already here and deployed. Okay, here's a basic flow. I didn't clean it up, so let's go ahead and clean it up a little bit. Let's make it pretty for you guys. And let's get rid of this for a second. Just pretend we didn't see that. So this is what a conversation flow looks like. And a conversation flow is a orchestration of agents working together. So for example, I have a receptionist agent, an issue collection agent, an agent that does transfers, whatever the case is. This isn't a great example, but it lets you understand it. If you want to do templates with your agents, again, we have some templates over here where you can actually grab certain stages that are pre-lined up or pre-seeded, drop them in, modify them to your own needs. Each node represents a prompt and basically a whole agent on its own. Each node has its own configuration. So you can come in here, you can do the prompt, you can change the voice, you can change whatever you want. So step by step, if this was a receptionist, a support agent, a billing agent, after hours agent, each one of them can have their own voice, each one of them can have their own temperature, their own tools, their own playbooks, you name it, it's extremely flexible. You do have the ability to embed conversation flows, and you also have the ability to test them right here as well. And then some of the smaller stuff, guys, for the keyboard power users out there, you do have full command palette control inside of the Agent Studio. So if you're used to that, whether you want to work with your mouse, you want to work with the keyboard, it's going to be completely compatible. And you do have a lot of cool little features in here. So for example, let's say I was working on this and I wanted to test my agent. I can come in here, start a test, and you're going to see it's going to zoom into the actual agent that it's on. And then as I'm talking to the agent and it's navigating to another stage, for example, it wants to navigate when it follows this rule, you're going to see that it's going to do the transfer and it's going to come over and it's going to keep bouncing and bouncing, right? So again, really cool setup. Now, once you start having bigger conversation flows, and I'm going to share something a little scary here. So this is a very sophisticated conversation flow, right? This is a project that we're working on for a partner. This is a serious triage flow that's going to go through a big time operation. So this is just to kind of give you the depth for how sophisticated we can make this. This is using a combination of the conversation flow, and some of these agents are using playbooks inside of them, right? So this one's not completely configured, but once we were ready for it, I would drop my start node. And grab this guy, drop my start node, and say, okay, this is going to start here. And then I would grab my end node, okay, and I would start connecting all my end nodes. I would create a transition, and then I would connect it over here. So add a transition, and go ahead and connect it over there, and then you explain why do you connect. So you can see all the places where a call could possibly terminate from. Now, once you start having bigger, more sophisticated node canvases like this, especially for the power users out there that are using N8N all the time, right? We kind of stole a small idea from them, which is the ability to add sticky notes. So, for example, maybe you're working on something, or you're ideating on how to do something, or you have an issue somewhere. You can actually create a note. You can put the notes next to any node or series of nodes. You can type in your notes, whatever you want. You can change the color. So perhaps you say, okay, this is green, this is fixed, or hey, this is red, I'm having an issue here. So whether you're working internally, you're working with a customer, you're working with our support, it's a way to communicate on the actual project without touching the project itself. So that, guys, is our new agent workflow canvas. Here, since we're on the dashboard, here you can see that we have some high-level analytics. We can see the workforce. If any of our agents was on a call right now, we would actually see it. We would see the call indicator instead of seeing it idle. And if we had any active calls, we would see the active calls here. Now, whenever I have an active call, what I do is I go ahead and I select the call. If I want to supervise it, I select the call and I get a panel that looks exactly like the test panel. And on there, I can actually see the live transcription as it's happening. At one point, not yet, you'll actually be able to listen to the call. For right now, you can read the transcription. And then if you want to barge into the call in some way, you can actually engage through the chat. So you can send a message to the agent on what you wanted to do, or you can send a message as the user in case the agent didn't interpret something. Going down the menu, we're going to jump into analytics, guys. So, agents, for the guys that have been MSPs for a long time, you were part of that evolution where MSPs went from break fix to retainer services. And you may have gone through that phenomenon where your customer was paying you a retainer, and then 6 months later they canceled because they said, I'm never down. What am I going to have this guy for, right? So they canceled and they went to some other cheap place. Eventually, they learned their lesson and they came back to you. But what did you guys learn there? That when you're doing a good job and you're not having any problems and somebody's paying you, it's easy to lose respect or value for what you're doing, right? Because it's proactive maintenance, not reactive. The whole point is you don't want them to go down. So agents are going to kind of have that same thing, right? As your customers start using agents and they're spending $50 or $5,000, and we've already seen both, you're going to need to justify what that agent is doing. So the analytics dashboard is where you're going to do that. You're going to be able to run reports on any agent. You're going to see how many calls did it take, what's the success rate, how many flows did it go through, the volume, the kind of analytics that you're looking for. You're going to see performance by agent. You're going to be able to see what tools are being run in your system, which one of them are failing and how often. If you're using conversation flows, how are your conversation flows going? If you're running diagnostics, okay, excuse me, we run diagnostics for you on what's happening with your errors. So we group up your errors and we show you the patterns within your agents. And then we also have an AI analysis, right? So I got a couple calls in here. Let me see. Do I have more calls on this demo? Yep, so I got a couple calls in here. So this is where our AI analysis and sentiment analysis kicks in. So aside from having the transcription and aside from having your agent do AI analysis and maybe trigger escalations or other tools, you can come in here and say analyze recent calls, and we'll actually grab the transcription for each call. We'll analyze it with another agent outside of the voice agent system, and we'll drop in here what the tone, if it was neutral, negative, or positive, and if there was any conversation topics, we'll actually show you the conversation topics as this report goes running, because we got to go call by call. Then you're going to see that your insight summary is going to start building up. You're going to see how many calls were analyzed, what were the topics, what was the sentiment, and this is going to start building out for you. So the idea is that both you and your customers can see what their agents are doing, can look at the analysis of how the conversations are going, and can make sure that you're providing value for the revenue you're collecting. Over here, I'm going to show you guys playbooks, and guys, there is a big warning that says it's an early preview, okay? This will probably be released in production in about 2-3 weeks, but we have some partners that are playing with it already. We want people to give us their feedback, so we are exposing it. I just ask you that you please don't sell it to anybody just yet. So a playbook is where you can do the really fancy agent stuff. And by the way, you should be using playbooks before conversation flows. So high level, because this isn't a training, I just want to show you, this is where you can come in and you can say, I want the agent to say something, or I want the agent to ask something, or I want the agent to execute a specific tool. And I think you can start getting the point here where you can say very deterministically, ask this question as an example. Ask this question, okay? Collect this information, issue type, okay, or device, or name, or whatever it is, okay? And then I want you to route to this next step. And this is very common of what's called a decision tree that's used in support systems and large support teams, where you create a decision tree where the operator follows it. This is what the agent's going to do. So you build out your playbook, you configure exactly what you want it to do, and then you assign the playbook to the agent. The agent runs through it, executes it, and then once it's done, it gets out. And you do have a simulator where you can actually simulate your playbooks to make sure that they're working the way you need them to work. Wayne, and I think, unless I missed something, it's a lot of info. I try to go fast. I think that's everything other than maybe some smaller stuff. Guys, you do have full-blown guides built into the system. So you got a complete guide for you and the customer. You can come in here, you can see all the features, you can see how they work. You got all the instructions you're going to possibly need. For our power users out there, for the guys that like to work in the dark, we do have a dark mode. Okay, so you can use it in dark mode or light mode. It is completely brandable as well. So there's a default color that comes with it, but if you guys want to adjust the colors, for example, to make it match your RingOS installation, each reseller can actually adjust the colors in a dash. You can adjust some of the settings in the integration as well. And Wayne, let me check our presentation real quick, make sure I didn't leave something out that we wanted to talk about, but I think that's everything. I think that's everything we were going to demo today.
Yeah, and just for context, guys, Albert said this earlier, but it wasn't a training session today. He covered everything the most important features I think that are going to be of interest to you. But there's a lot of depth that we didn't get into, and that's really what the training sessions that will follow will be for. So if you've got questions, cool, happy to answer any of the feature function. We can even jump back in here and review a particular feature. But as far as getting into the depth of this, got a whole plan for you here.
Wayne, this is funny. We said that's planned for 30 minutes because it'll end up being 45. And we're an hour in. So guys, it wasn't supposed to be a demo. I'm sorry if I got into a little bit too much detail. I'm a techie talker, but I wanted to make sure you really got to see what we're working on. And this is not even all of it. I mean, this is what we've already built and are deploying. Our active roadmap, we're going to talk about it now. We have so many more features that are coming, features that are already live on the staging system and we're polishing up for production. And the active roadmap that's coming behind it is kind of big and exciting. So with that, just go ahead and switch over. Wait, if we have a couple questions, maybe we can take a couple now, and then we can also, or let me look at the presentation. Maybe we want to let's talk about new features first.
Yeah, let's go through that.
Or no, not new features, but let's talk about what's next. Excuse me.
Yeah, the what's coming. Some of
Yeah,
that is new
that's
features. Some of that is going to be new training. Some of it's going to be new services.
correct. Correct. So let's go ahead and hand this over to you, sir. You see the screen?
Yep, you're at
Okay.
the first one.
Just waiting for me to get on the right slide. Okay.
You're good. All right, so I'll fill that in. I think I updated the one you and I were sharing, not the one you finished. So I'll talk about it.
Yeah,
It'll
guys,
be
sorry, the date and times are not on here.
yep.
So
I'll cover it. It's the 18th at 11 Eastern time, and this is going to be in the reminder email. It is then 2 days later for 102, the 20th, also 11 Eastern time, and then the 25th, which would be 1 week after the 8-1 and the 18th, also again 11 Eastern time. Thank you. And
let me get those again, Wayne. I know this is dirty, guys, but at least you got something.
it's in
Let
the
me have
chat.
those dates again for them.
Gabriella dropped it into the chat. So 11 a.m. Eastern time, all of these. The first one is Tuesday, August 18th. Then the second is Thursday, August 20th, 2 days later. And then Tuesday, August 25th is the third one.
There we go. Okay. Well, you want to go ahead and talk about what's next for partners, active roadmap, and then maybe we'll do some questions after that.
Yeah, let's talk about active roadmap because I think there's some features on here that everybody's going to be real curious about. And let's start there, and then I'll talk about a couple of other things.
Screen sharing is paused.
There you go.
You see the screen?
Yep, you're good.
Okay.
Okay. So you probably want to tackle the first two.
Oh yeah, let me go ahead and handle that for you. Sorry. So active roadmap. Let me talk about that for you guys. So what's coming up? What's actively being worked on at the moment? So first things first is we're releasing a NetSapiens one-click app. So inside the marketplace that you saw, you will have a one-click app for the PBX product. It's not going to be called NetSapiens. It's going to be called Cloud PBX. And that's going to give you the ability. So for the customers that are using SMS through NetSapiens, it'll give your agent the ability to send and receive SMS, which is very cool and very helpful. For example, if you're trying to do some sort of live validation or verification with somebody, you might want to send a message, receive a message to be able to do some sort of authentication. You're also going to be able to do presence. So your agent will be able to tell who's available, who's busy, who's not, who's idle, in case you want to check before you do a transfer. And you're also going to be able to do call control. So typically, the call control is going to come from transfers. But now, as you add call control and as you add outbound calling, which I'm going to talk about in a minute, you now step into new territories where you can do some really cool stuff. For example, you can create a supervisor agent that you would be able to analyze your transcriptions on your regular phone system, right? Having nothing to do with an agent call. You'll be able to analyze a transcription, trigger a workflow that can actually tell your agent, I want you to connect or I want you to listen, whisper, barge into this particular call, right? So now it could actually execute through the API the ability to connect to that call. And if you wanted to, for example, have the agent step in and then maybe transfer that call to somebody else who can handle it better, if you can think of it, you can basically do it now. Okay. You're also going to have our SMS one-click app. And for this one, guys, I'm going to give you a teaser, but I'm just going to say stay tuned, and you're going to be hearing about a new product called Message Studio soon. And you can kind of guess the same level of quality experience that we're looking at in feature set, but specifically to messaging with a lot of cool tools, including 10DLC compliance inside of it as well. Now, on the outbound side, we are going to be supporting real-time outbound calling and scheduled outbound calling, which is kind of neat. So real-time outbound calling, there's an API for it. You want to trigger an outbound call. For example, you may have a workflow in your ticketing system like HubSpot or Zoho, or you may use Zapier or N8N, doesn't matter. And you have a lead that comes into your website. You immediately want to trigger an outbound call. You're going to hit the API. You're going to provide the information. The agent's going to make the call for you. Scheduled outbound calls is also kind of neat. So scheduled outbound calls, what's cool about that is that it allows you to put a big batch of calls in there without having to have any API integrations or anything of that sort. So think about a doctor's office, right? So you may have a dentist office that's got 200 appointments tomorrow. Normally you would have a receptionist calling each one of those appointments to see if they're ready to go. Well, what you can do now is you log into your scheduling system, you export a CSV of your appointments for the next day, you upload that CSV into our system, you designate a window when you'd like the calls to go out, and then the system will just automatically start sending out calls on your behalf. So if you don't have any integrations or development resources, no big deal. All you need is a spreadsheet. And then as far as compliance goes, guys, we are going to very specifically have a HIPAA compliance solution for the agent itself. It's going to be a feature that you toggle on and off that's going to modify the service so that it is HIPAA compliant for you. And then you're also going to have PCI DSS compliance features. So they're both very cool. The PCI is going to be the most unique. We're going to be one of less than a handful of partners that are going to be able to offer this, or providers. What it does is that it enables your agent to actually process payments. So high level, the way it's going to work is the agent will be involved up until the moment of collecting the credit card. At that exact moment, we have some magic in the background where we go from agent to kind of like an IVR system, but it's not. At that moment, that system is going to be collecting the information. The agent, the runtime, the transcription, that never sees it. The model never sees it. Once the payment has been processed, the agent steps back in. And as far as your customer is concerned, 100% seamless because it was the same tone, the same speed, the same voice, the same everything. And then the last piece is the continuous expansion of the marketplace. Like I said, we have somebody who's dedicated to this pretty much full time. Their goal right now is to just be building apps. So you should see no less than a vendor a week, in some cases, maybe two or three. And I would expect that momentum until we hit about 25, give or take, 2025, then we're going to slow down and make sure, are we delivering what our partners want? Are the apps getting used? Are we moving in the right direction? And that's it for here. Wayne, do you want to answer questions, or you want to talk about the next slide first?
I think we're good on questions. On that last note, the expansion in the marketplace. We're all ears, guys. Like we've got our ideas, but if you have specific ideas that you think will be marketable, or you've got customer demand right now that you know of, let us know. We want to make sure we're incorporating the things that we know are going to be needed. So just you can reach out to your PGM, me directly, or anybody on the team. You want to go to the next slide?
Yep.
Okay. So we've also talked to some partners here who are interested in selling voice AI agents and very interested in the platform, but they do not want to build for a variety of reasons, right? And it may be one-off customer that they don't want to build for this particular one, and they wanted some assistance. So we've decided to make some professional services available to really help our partners get those customers that are either a little bit more complicated or simply, if your business model is, I don't have enough time to be able to do this, I want to sell it, but I need somebody else to initiate the build. That's where we come in. It's a paid, done for you service, very structured engagement. I'll talk a little bit about what that structure looks like on the next slide. And it is very much a code-delivered model. So your team stays involved with us. The idea here is that we will be working with you. You will be working with the customer. Sometimes we may be jointly working with the customer. So just a couple things so that we also don't create confusion about what the service will do. We really aren't in the software development business. So things that sit outside the scope of the actual agent project are probably going to be things we're not going to be able to tackle. Open-ended consulting or undefined projects. I think you guys have all had customers at some point who give you partial requests and then you deliver something, and then later on they come back and ask you to add to the work that you've already done, but think that it was included in the initial scope of work. So we want to have a pretty defined scope of work with you. You buy off on that scope of work. The customer buys off. We're all on the same page as to what's being delivered. We will do short-term monitoring. We'll talk a little bit about that in the next slide. But we would not be in the business of doing long-term monitoring and support. And so, just understand that there would be a limitation on that side of things. And then, again, not a hands-off engagement from your team. It's a cooperative thing. We will likely need access, feedback, and then there's a couple pivotal approvals that we would need to gain together so that we are all on the same page about what's being delivered. And then we do have to understand too, and you guys will want to position this with the customer if you're working with us. The scope of work is the scope of work. We deliver a successful scope of work. Everybody should be happy at that point. We do know, or we do believe that this product really is I'm going to call land and expand opportunity for a lot of customers, meaning they start with a particular use case and then they want to either expand that use case or expand into other use cases. Those are change requests. So we would treat those as new orders for whatever the next change would be.
And guys, one clarification on the monitoring to make sure we're on the same page. We're talking about performance monitoring. So once we deliver an agent under the professional services program, we monitor that agent until it meets our performance metric. Okay, and we're not off the project until it's doing what the scope of work says it's going to do. Okay, so during that time, we're proactively logging into your agent almost daily. We're looking at the analytics that you guys just looked at here. We're looking at your tools. We're looking at any possible errors. We're looking at your success rates. How many times did that call get to its goal? Because that's one of the things the analytics does. It determines, was the goal met, yes or no. If we see any issues there, if we see your tool is failing, if we see that the agent is not doing what it's supposed to do, we're proactively monitoring it. We're looking at it. We're tuning your prompts. We're tuning your tools. And we're doing that until it reaches the performance metric, right? Where this agent works and is doing what it's supposed to do. At that moment, we do an official handoff and that proactively performance monitoring stops. However, we continue to monitor the platform. We're just monitoring the platform at a global level. So we are monitoring how often are the agent reaching their goals? How often are we having errors? And we're reaching out to partners who we're talking to you, but specifically we're talking about individual agent performance monitoring, the kind of stuff that you would do long term as your, for example, if you sold a managed agent to your customer.
So the model here, I'll say anybody who's been through a custom software development project, you guys have seen kind of similar methodology. So what we're going to talk about here isn't anything that I feel is very unique as much as just a definition of how this will roll. And then individually, when we would work with you, we kind of define roles and responsibilities along the way. But at a really high level, the very first thing is, what does a customer want? So there's this discovery process. It's a business discovery process and it's a technical discovery process. So we will need some technical information, understanding about business systems we're integrating, how they authenticate, things of that nature. design, right? So once we've got the understanding of the scope that the customer is asking for and the technical requirements, we can start to design. Before we move into build, this is where, approvals would be required. So we don't want to start building something if it doesn't meet the intent, right? So this would be where you, us, potentially the customer have conversations of, okay, here's what the design looks like. Are you ready to proceed to build? If that's the case, cool. We start the build. The build is going to go through iterations of testing. We will test internally with you. We'll do some of our own testing, tool testing, things of that nature to be sure that we've got the right parameters in the right places and everything is working as intended. And then there's the launch phase, and Albert went into a good bit of detail on the monitoring, but this is where the monitoring starts. Doesn't mean that the project is over because the handoff hasn't happened. So as Albert said, we're going to spend a couple weeks on the monitoring. As long as it's meeting the metrics that we've established, then we move to the handoff, and that's where you and the customer continue your relationship, and we kind of take a step back and move on to the next project. And that's it in a nutshell for our how we would work together.
Yeah, and guys, just so you know, it's a very structured process because the idea is we want to be clear, kind of like the PBX routing sheets, right? If you guys are using those, we want the customer, you and us, to all be clear on what the expectations are and the moving parts, right? We want to make sure we're collecting the information we need. We want to make sure we're clear before we start the work. Then we want to execute the work, hand it over, working, and then disengage. Now, although it's a six-step process, I'll tell you this: we've done this several dozen times already. Some of the partners on this call may have already worked with our new team members, particularly Eduardo, he's a prompting and a voice agent wizard. And this can happen in as fast as 2, 3 days, right? I mean, it could happen as fast as 3 days, or it can take as long as 3 weeks, right? It's really up to how sophisticated is it? How many times do we have to talk to the client? How prepared is the client? How quickly can we get information from you? For example, when you want us to connect to HubSpot or different places, are you making those connections in the application for us quickly? Or are you giving us the keys so we can do it for you quickly? But it can take anywhere from 3 days to 3 weeks, really depending on the complexity of the project itself. And that's it, guys. Again, we're very excited to introduce this to you. This might be the fastest and most significant application that we have created. We're very excited about the opportunity that it creates. So with that, if you would like any more information on Agent Studio, or if you want some more information on the go-to-market professional services, please reach out to Success or reach out to your Success manager. Rollouts of Agent Studio are starting to happen now. So the way it's going to work, guys, is because Flowbot's already delivered, there are some differences between the two systems. They still run on the same runtime, they use the same SIP gateway, but they work two independent platforms. So we're going to be transitioning people, we're going to be migrating people. So if you haven't gotten your notification yet, Monday, Tuesday, you should start receiving those notifications. It's going to let you know the time that we're going to make the switch. If you have anybody using the Zapier or N8N apps right now, then we're going to contact you to help you move those before, but the transition is going to be super smooth. Any partners that have not signed up yet, remember, this is a product that does require another schedule. If you haven't signed up yet, reach out to Success. They can activate the schedule for you, and then they're just going to go ahead and turn you on the system directly. And that's it, guys. Again, thank you very much for your time today, and we really do appreciate it.
Excellent. I think we covered all of the questions. So, guys, look forward to seeing you on the training. Reach out to Success, as Albert mentioned, or feel free to reach out to me directly. Thanks. Bye-bye.